Hi, welcome to my channel. My name's Alan. I'm glad you're here. Today I am doing a VR to Katey Flowers and her only 10 decks tag for Tarot and Oracle. If we had to trim down our collection to only 10 decks, which were the 10 that we would keep? So if you want to see which 10 I picked, stick around. Katey Flowers and her tag only 10 decks has really set us a challenge to really determine which decks matter in our collections. And for me, that was kind of how I looked at it. So I've picked a combination of Tarot and Oracle decks that when push comes to shove, if everything else had to go, these are the ones that I would keep and that I could use the most. I mean, and this is also in the sense too, that at this moment, like with only 10 decks, I canceled my pre-orders and everything. So nothing else. These are the 10 decks I would use for the rest of my life, which is tough. And I would say that in a year, I'd probably pick different decks, maybe. But these are 10 decks that I think are pretty standard, solid in my collection that I don't know if I would change that much. So let's take a look at them. So when it comes to the first deck to talk about, I want to do, there's almost no particular order, but first I have to talk about my Revelations Tarot. I love this deck. One, because it is what I learned on. It's what I learned reversals on. It's what I learned tarot journaling on. It's what I learned tarot on. Not crazy about these backs, but this deck wouldn't go anywhere. This deck would have to stay. And a lot of people, when they're doing this tag, talk about, oh, well, of course I have to have Rider-Waite-Smith. It's like, I don't. I know the pictures. I know the images. And when it comes to keeping 10 decks, the Rider-Waite-Smith doesn't give me the readings. It doesn't give me the mileage out of it as a deck worth to keep only 10. So I've kept some, Rider-Waite-Smith clones. I've kept some things that are similar to it, just like this. This gives me all the Rider-Waite system that I need, both upright and reverse, to kind of get me where I'm going. And when I'm only picking 10 decks, I've got to pick 10 decks that I can get some mileage out of. And the Revelations Tarot is definitely one of those decks. So, the second deck I want to talk about is my Liberty Tarot of the Stars Eternal. If I'm not keeping the Rider-Waite-Smith, I'm not keeping the Thoth, the Aleister Crowley, Lady Free Harris Thoth deck itself. Again, it's a beautiful deck. I've actually gotten more mileage out of it than an actual RWS. But push comes to shove, this is my favorite Thoth clone. This is the one I've gotten most personal development out of. It gives me everything I need from the Thoth and more. So this is the one that stays. This is not necessarily a deck for everybody that I can use for all readings, but that's okay. This deck has always been kind of just for me anyway. So when it comes to a second deck that I would keep in only 10 decks, it's got to be the Liberty Tarot of the Stars Eternal. Okay. The third deck that I would keep has got to be my Universal Fantasy Tarot. This is an amazing deck. I've raved about it before, so I'm not going to go into it. There's a whole walkthrough on my channel with this deck. And the Paolo Martinello, who did the art, did an amazing job. This deck just hits all the things that I love about tarot. It has enough grit. It has enough, depth that it really does work for me as a tarot deck. It's not just a theme deck. So that's one that would have to stay, is the Universal Fantasy Tarot. And what was it also another easy choice is I've got to keep my Deviant Moon Tarot. This is my Premier Edition, I believe. This is the one with the, no, this is the China edition. I have multiple copies. This is the Italian edition. I would probably actually just keep the boardless one because I have that too, but this is the deck I had in hand. So I don't need to show these decks. One thing that really meant that to keep a deck too is what is the mileage I can get from it? Not just in readings, do they read well? It's true, but what are decks that can teach me and continue to push me? And not only do I have this great deck, I also have the amazing book. And I have read it cover to cover. It is great, but I really feel like there's more to discover about it. And that if I kept this deck and limited it down to 10, when it came to study, this would get more time to study. And I would dive into the deck a little bit. The book and the deck a little bit more. So that's one reason why the Deviant Moon by Patrick Valenza would have to stay. The next deck that would have to stay in my collection would be my Spirit Keepers. And I've chosen the Revelation Edition. I just got it. I just did the video of 5 decks, 5 years, and I didn't include this one. because when it comes to 20 and 21, this isn't been the standout deck yet because I've had it all like 48 hours. But 2018, the Spirit Keepers, the first edition, was a deal. I do think I would keep this one over that one, just because it's so pretty. I mean, these backs are amazing. I'm not gonna flip through. There's flip throughs, but just the fact that it's colored, it is a little bit updated, and this does feel a little bit more like the fleshed out system that Benabel was going for. It pays off. So I assume it's going to read well. If things go in the next couple of days, when I go and start looking into it and really diving into the deck and using it for readings, if it doesn't pay off, then I might kick it out and then stick with my regular Spirit Keepers. But if the decision had to be made today, I would assume this would read as well as Spirit Keepers. Also, too, I have all the Spirit Keeper Tarot backup information and knowledge and books that I really could dive into this. And this system was so dense, and she's added so much esoteric and occult references in here that I could still learn that this would pay off. This would be a great deck to invest a couple years in. So that is for deck 5, would be the Light Sears. Again, this is another deck I just talked about in my 5 years, 5 decks. This deck has to stay. And I would keep my Kickstarter edition because I know I paid the most for it. But because it is approachable, it is kid friendly, it is a deck I can read for the public, it is a deck that every time I use I learn something and it makes me smile and it makes me happy. This deck makes me happy that's in my collection and is not going anywhere. Again, another deck that is just having another moment again with me, like I've said, is Anastasia Barrington's Phosphor Beetle Tarot. This has proven itself to be a great reading deck with just multiple appeal. Really does just read for whatever questions, and this would have to stay too. Again, this is a deck I just love. People are raving about this deck for years, and if you don't have one, what you waiting for? Just go get it. It's so good. I haven't tried the Oracle deck that she's got, but I'm not interested. But because this is great. So this was the deck that we also have to say. The Phosphor Beetle Tarot by Anastasia Barrington. And for my final tarot deck to talk about, I would have to keep my Pocket of Peers tarot. I love what this deck does. It's great. And this is not a cheat. I want everyone to know this is not a cheat, because I would also keep my Pocket of Peers tarot tiles. Because it's not a deck. It's tiles. It's fun. It's a different type of thing. And then you work together. If push came to shove and I had to pick one of them, I would pick my tiles, because one, I paid more for them, and they're great. They're durable. They will last way longer. But the Pocket of Peers as a deck would have to stay. Again, because it's a great deck. It fits the system and it gives a lot of recognition, and I get a lot from it when I use it. So Pocket of Peers would be the final tarot deck that I keep in my collection. So when it comes to Oracle decks, there are 2 that are staying in my collection, and I thought there would be more. And this is, if there's any part of this video that I would probably reconsider if push came to shove, it is probably my Oracle decks. Not because I would get rid of any of these. I might kick out another tarot deck for another Oracle, just for some variety. But first, and the only Lenormand deck I would keep is the Rona George Lenormand, who I love. I love Rona as a person. She actually signed mine. I have an autographed copy. Because she's an amazing person who is giving and a delight and just a joy to be around every time I'm with her. So when it comes to Lenormand, I would have to keep this one. And another deck I would keep is the Oracle of Initiation. This is by Melissa Lucia. Again, this is another person that I have met in person. I backed this deck on Indiegogo. I have deck number 37, just FYI. I have the big edition, and then I backed the miniature edition. I also got the big book. So this is, again, another deck that's got a great system that I love. And I love the system so much because she put so much thought into it, so much work into it, that it is deep and it is complex and it is varied, and it can get you where you need to go too. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love her art. It is all these kind of crazy photos of her in the desert which is just beautiful because she's a beautiful soul, so that kind of comes through. But and I've told her this, like I could see this being a system that someone else, with her permission, could create a deck that would also represent the system really, really well. So because there's so much to this, and because I love Melissa as a person, I'm never getting rid of this. Oh my God. Forever this deck is staying in my collection. So that's my 10 decks. If I had to keep only 10, these are the 10 that I would leave. So that was a fun, tough tag. But I'm loving watching these videos. I love seeing how people would narrow down the decisions they would make and how they would keep only 10 decks. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.